You're watching the Motorola One 5G Ace disassembly. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. Also, if you need any tools, there are links in the description. First, we're going to remove the SIM tray. Now you need to use a hairdryer or a heat gun to heat up the back plate so you can loosen up the adhesive underneath, and then you're going to use a plastic pry tool to pry the back plate off. Now once you pry the adhesive off around the edges, don't lift the back cover up yet because your fingerprint reader is still attached to the back plate. You're going to have to press in on the fingerprint reader and separate it from the back plate. So here's your back plate, and it is plastic. Once you remove the back plate, there are 16 Phillips screws that need to be removed. Now once you have all the screws removed, we can lift up and remove the top plastic cover. So on the top plastic cover, there are some antenna lines, these light gray color ones. You also have your NFC antenna located right here. On the back side, you can see your LED flash board right here, and the two contacts for your NFC antenna right here. We're going to start off by disconnecting the battery cable. We're going to go ahead and lift up this graphite film. And we're going to disconnect the battery cable right here. Once that's disconnected, we can go ahead and disconnect the rest of the cables. There are two wire cables here in the corner, just pop them off. And there's a copper tape over here we're going to have to peel off so we can disconnect the front facing camera. There are two Phillips screws holding down the main board. You have one located here and one over here. Once those two screws are removed, we can lift up and remove the main board. So taking a better look at the motherboard, you have this graphite film over here, which is sitting on top of some copper tape that's on top of the shields. You have a liquid damage sticker located over here, and your three cameras right here. You also have the spot over here with soldering points here for where one of the 5G millimeter wave antennas would go. And you have solder points over here on top of the board where the second 5G millimeter wave antenna would go. Now that doesn't mean this phone doesn't have 5G. This specific model just doesn't support 5G millimeter wave technology. And so far in the US, Verizon is the only one that pretty much uses that at the moment. And most international carriers use the sub 6 GHz 5G. Once we peel back the graphite film and copper tape, we can see the shields underneath. So taking a look at the back side, you have your other two camera connectors over here, and your camera connectors all disconnect by just popping them off. You have more graphite film and copper tape over the shields on the back, and you have your memory card and SIM reader located right here. You also have your secondary microphone on top over here. Once we peel off the graphite film and copper tape on the back, we can see a thermal pad which sits on top of the Qualcomm processor over here, and two more thermal pads on top of these chips over here. Now in order to remove the bottom speaker assembly, we're going to have to start off by peeling off this graphite film over here. Now we can lift up and remove the speaker assembly. So here's your speaker assembly, and you also have some antenna lines running through this plastic piece as well. And you have a mesh filter over here on the opening of the speaker, and on the back you can see the speaker itself. We have a flex cable over here on the subboard we have to disconnect. Once we disconnect that, there are two wire cables we have to pop off. And then there's one Phillips screw holding on the charger port board. Once that screw is removed, we can lift up and remove the charger port board. So looking at the charger port board, you have your charger port right here with a rubber gasket around it. Your headphone jack's right here. And on the back side, you can see your primary microphone located right here. So when it comes to removing the battery, there are no pull tabs. I'm not surprised. So you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. Either use isopropyl alcohol or use a hairdryer or a heat gun to heat up the front of the phone where the screen is so you can loosen up the adhesive underneath the battery, making it easier to pry off. And here you have a better look at your battery. So now taking a better look at the mid-frame, We have your screen cable over here, which is routed through this opening in the mid-frame. You have this flex cable here, which connects your subboard to your main board. You have a very old style vibrator motor over here, which seems to be 2 or 3 generations old. I'm assuming that's a cost-cutting measure. And we have a flex cable over here, which is for your power button and volume keys, which is routed through the mid-frame in between the screen and the mid-frame itself, as well as flex cable over here, which I believe is for your proximity sensor. So if you had to replace either one of those, you'd have to actually pry the screen off from the mid-frame to gain access to them. And you have your earpiece speaker located right here. And you have a plastic placeholder over here for one of the 5G millimeter wave antennas. This is where one of them would go. So if you wanted to replace your screen, you would have to take the back cover off, as well as remove the plastic cover on top of the motherboard. And then you disconnect your screen cable from the main board. You'd heat up the screen from the front of the phone so you can loosen up the adhesive underneath. And then you'd pry the screen off, get your new screen, reapply it back to the mid-frame, making sure you run your cable back to the opening over here. And then you just reassemble your phone. One more thing to point out, you do have rubber mesh filters on the top and bottom where the microphone holes are on the mid-frame itself. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the phone back together. Once all your screws are back in place, apply new adhesive and reapply your back plate. I'm going to flip over your phone, power it on, and you're done. Now as far as repairability goes, I give this phone a 4.5 out of 10. The backplate removal is pretty difficult, the adhesive is very strong and there's a lot of adhesive. The battery doesn't have any pull tabs and has some strong adhesive underneath, so it's going to be difficult prying that off. Also the flex cable for the proximity sensor and the power button volume key is routed in between the screen and the mid-frame, so that would also be a difficult replacement as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.